All right. And Lynette, where did you go to high school at?
I went to Morton at first, and then I graduated at East Chicago Central.
Okay. So you had some nice sports facilities and nice sports teams. I mean, what do you think about the one caller who said, get rid of some of these facilities and you can share them? I mean, to me, you'd have to have football games 7 days a week if you had, limited number of stadiums. So what do you think about that idea to save money?
I think, yeah, I think some of them are, like a swimming pool. I don't think many of the students enjoy the swimming pool, so
Yeah, I agree with you. I think swimming and some of those facilities, they don't draw a lot of money. I mean, the argument could be said that, for example, you went to EC Central and Morton, their football programs create a lot of revenue. So those are revenue generators. But nonetheless, the caller had an idea. So 845-1100 is the number to call. Like to hear your views on how to save money with the school system this morning and anything else. And we have a caller, so we'll go right to the caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. It's Mont. I heard you talking about the Senator Kennedy book. Um,
Yes.
I wanted to let you know that it's available on Audible for, I think, less than $18, and it's narrated by the senator. So it's in my wish list. I got the new Jack Carr novel. I've been waiting for it, so I got it yesterday, and it's amazing. It's a prequel to his Terminal List series. So that's what I'm listening to now, but thought I'd share that with you. It's available on Audible.
What you've mentioned before about listening to Audible books, and I'm just not comfortable with it. I know that I know that a lot of people are, but I'm just not comfortable with the idea of listening to audiobooks. My son does it. A lot of people do. I like holding a book. I don't like reading electronic based books either.
Well,
I like having that book in my hand.
I'm pretty much staring at a screen all day, and last thing I want to look, I'm trying to save my eyes, okay? So
Right.
listening to a book, I enjoy it. I don't have cable. I heard you talking earlier about, like, you're not really into the series, like the Oak Island
Reality
series
series, yes.
anymore. Yeah, I
Yep.
basically have determined that, well, 2 weeks ago I went to the Rally Conference to listen to Sam and Peter pitch Jed TV to a bunch of investors. They did a great job, by the way. I think I've already called in and mentioned that.
You did
But
mention
I,
that, and I saw part of it, and they did a really great job, no doubt about it.
he really understands the business model now, the business thesis, and I think it's just a matter of time that thing becomes like the next ESPN, and I hope it's headquartered in Northwest Indiana. That would be an amazing thing for this area. But, you know, staying down in a hotel gave me the opportunity to flip through some cable channels, and I got to tell you, there was not one damn thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear. Not one
That's okay.
thing on cable on 100 and some channels that I was interested in watching. It's all formulaic. You talked about Oak Island. It's like, how many seasons? What is it, 13, 14 seasons where, we're just about we're closing in on where the treasure is. Okay? That's the same model as the guys who search for ghosts. You know, they're like, oh, we just barely missed the ghost getting on camera, but we know it's here. You know, it's just all so much garbage. And so frankly, I don't miss any of it. I'd rather listen to a book. It's listening to someone's own creation. It's not like something that was like studied and worked out in a, Hollywood, Los Angeles conference room with a bunch of writers. It's just someone else's creativity, listening to it one-on-one. That's why I like Audible.
Well, again, I agree with you to the extent that it's a lot better than trying to burn your eyes out. I can't get used to a Kindle or reading it electronically. And it's probably better than what is on cable. I have Sling, which, just is a cheaper version of cable, I guess, because you get the same channels. But some of these reality shows are just such a waste of time. In fact, thinking about shows that are on television right now, the only show that I watch regularly, which would not be a surprise to you, is Shark Tank.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
that's
again,
the only
it's
show
one
that I watch
person's
on a regular
creativity.
basis.
Again, it's one person's creativity being presented. It's not like a group think. Everyone's got to be represented. There's got to be, one African American, one Hispanic, one Asian, one gay person, one transgender person in the cast. It's just one person's creativity being presented. And I think that's what they need to get back to on TV or even in the movies. It's horrible. What's creative now is just garbage.
Well, did you hear the latest out of Netflix? Netflix has now sanitized the graphic that basically represents the James Bond movies, and they've taken the gun out of the hand of James Bond. I mean, James Bond always carries a gun, and so they thought that it was not appropriate to show James Bond holding a gun, even though if you watch the movie, he's carrying a gun the entire time. But they sanitized it.
It's going to confuse a lot of people when they see the graphics for Goldfinger, now without the gun.
Yeah, I mean, again, how stupid. Look, if I get their, I get their concern, and I have a concern too about the proliferation of guns and the murder rates and all those things. But taking the gun out of the hands of James Bond characters doesn't really change anything, because if you watch the movie, I mean, the whole idea is Netflix wants you to watch the movie, right? And what are they going to do? Have them use a water gun? I mean,
you're really tying in the whole show this morning with your comments, because now it makes me think about your talk earlier about why Democrats allow crime to be so rampant. And my understanding was the Democrats wanted this to happen so that people would be pushing gun reform, gun control. That was their whole goal in being soft on crime, is to let these people just wild through our neighborhoods, wild through our society, and people would be demanding gun control. But, you had somebody on a train stab a young lady in the throat with a knife, so we're going to have knife control. We had people ram through a group of, ICE agents with their car. Are we going to have car control? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, you're right about that, Mont, and that was an actual theory that was promoted by some Democratic strategists. That, well, if you were soft on crime, the general public would rise up and say, okay, enough of this, and we want gun control. And that was an actual theory. Never worked, obviously, and it's just created.
It didn't, because it made me buy more guns.
Yeah, it's just created more problems, and it's caused more people to buy more guns. You're absolutely right. In fact, a lot of the people who profess to be anti-gun, especially the Hollywood elites, generally carry guns or have bodyguards that carry guns.
Correct.
So there you go. Yep. Hey, thanks so much for calling. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Bye.
You as well. 845-1100. We got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. You guys talking about boondoggles a little bit earlier with the South Shore. I've got more and more friends of mine that when they're booking travel, they're seriously looking at driving to South Bend instead of going up to that O'Hara nightmare up there, up in northwestern Cook County. And they got to go right past Gary Airport. I cannot understand these politicians in northwest Indiana. I know Chicago has pretty much developed this phony airport authority where they're basically paying off politicians here in northwest Indiana not to develop our own airport. But it's ridiculous when they're talking about convention centers over next to the Hard Rock, and you got this massive airport right here in Gary, way bigger than Midway, that we can't even utilize because we can't get our politicians off their rear end to try to actually get some of these flights diverted from the Chicago area over to Gary Airport, when it should be a no-brainer.
Well,
what is wrong with people in this area?
Well, you bring up a good point. So Gary Airport, we've all heard this for the last 30 or 40 years, that Gary Airport was going to be the salvation of Gary. It was going to be the salvation of northwest Indiana. It's never come to fruition. So the first thing it ought to tell you is that the next time they come out with a pie in the sky idea, that it's not worth considering, because the ones that they've promoted in the past, the airport, the train, it just hasn't worked. Secondly, you bring up about South Bend. South Bend is an amazing airport. It's very close, and they do have a lot of flights. And I've heard the same thing that you mentioned, more and more people talking about taking the 90-minute drive to South Bend. Of course, there are people who will tell you, well, you'll be able to take the train there, which, I don't see myself taking the train for 2.5 hours to get to the airport, but nonetheless, that's, I guess, an option. The problem with Gary that really exists right now, however, is not the facility, it's not the marketing, it's the fact that the airlines are just not interested in changing anything that they already have set up. So airlines have pulled out of dozens and dozens of airports in the United States. It started with COVID. There's a shortage of pilots. There's a shortage of about 5,000 pilots. There's also a shortage on air traffic controllers. And to get people to get an airline to move to Gary right now would be very, very difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult.
Well, like Southwest Airlines, which has got, what is it, maybe 50, 60 flights a day out of Midway at least?
Oh, no, hundreds.
Hundreds, there you go. Well, the thing is, the idea that they can't divert some of those flights over to Gary. South Bend actually has, I think it's United has the service out of South Bend up to the hub at O'Hare. And
yes.
The idea to me, the idea that we can't get at least a few, many flights, I'm going to say 15, 20 a day out of Gary to move some of that over to Gary from Midway. Is the only reason I could see why that couldn't be a possibility. And as far as the airlines, they're all in it for money. There's politics. There's pressure put on them by the Chicago machine to stay right where they're at. I cannot believe they can't move a few of these flights to Gary. It wouldn't be the end of Southwest Airlines to do this. Matter of fact, look at how many. What do we got? We got a complete congressional district living on this side of the border. And we can't provide enough bodies to actually utilize a place like Gary Airport. It seems ridiculous.
Well, here's the problem. So Southwest Airlines has maintenance hubs over at Midway. They have all kinds of support operations, and if you split that up, you're going to double the cost. So you're going to have to add all the ground support. You're going to have the maintenance people. You're going to have the all the support people that it takes to move those planes. Now, Southwest is a unique operation too. They don't run hangar operations at Midway. They don't repair the planes there. They simply clean them, fuel them, and turn them around. But once again, when I spoke to somebody in aviation in Chicago before, they said part of the problem is trying to bring somebody from say Midway over to Gary. It just isn't cost effective because you're just going to double the cost.
Well, that's if you have to service out of Midway. I'm not talking about that many flights. 15, 20 a day. So it's
but think about it. Think about it. If you take those 15 to 20 flights out of Midway, you're going to have to service those planes when they come in, right?
Right.
Okay, and so you're still going to have operations at Midway. So now you're going to have double the number of people.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, the thing is too is that you've got. I would imagine a good part of the people that are working up there in Midway are probably from this region. They're probably commuting up to Midway, so it'd be a lot easier on them just to go to Gary. You don't need that many; it's proportional. The other thing too, BP Oil here has a pipeline that actually pumps jet fuel all the way up to O'Hare Airport. You wouldn't, with a few flights, you wouldn't have to actually do something like that at Gary. You could truck over fuel for that to be using at Gary. How do these places? You go to Rockford, you go to South Bend, you go to let's say Peoria. How do these places do it?
So Rockford has largely lost its commercial traffic. A lot of airports in Iowa, in say Dubuque, has lost their commercial traffic. A lot of the smaller airports in the United States have lost commercial flights, and that's because of the shortage of pilots. So during COVID, we basically had a lot of pilots who retired and not enough pilots to replace them. And my son's friend is a commercial pilot, and he will tell you that the sky's the limit right now. If you're a young experienced pilot, you can go anywhere at any time because they're looking for pilots right and left. And that shortage isn't going to dissipate for another 3 or 4 years. It's going to take another 3 or 4 years to get enough pilots to replace the ones that are retiring, the ones that retired, and to cover the demand for increased air traffic.
That goes along with lack of vision. We haven't had any political leaders in this country with any kind of vision, and that goes for the transportation department too. They should have foreseen all this kind of thing. And hopefully now we've got somebody that's actually looking at improving the system. Air traffic controllers, it's vital we actually get more of these people online. These idiots in Washington, if they get off talking about transgenderism and start talking about the future of this country, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now, where you got a government lockdown and you can't even pay the air traffic controllers.
It's pretty frightening. Because what you're saying is correct. We have an air traffic control system that is so out of date that it's using programs and software and equipment that was designed 20, 30 years ago. And we're putting millions of lives every day up on aircraft. And we're all, we're all shocked and sorrowful when there's an accident. But a lot of those accidents occur because we're using such archaic systems. And we need to update our air traffic control system. You're absolutely right.
And the thing is, too, what is the purpose then of even doing anything with Gary if we're going to let this, weeds start growing out of the tarmac there? What is the point of the whole thing? The lack of vision in Northwest Indiana here, it's like you're talking about the South Shore. It's a one track. It's not even a double track. So what are you going to run, like 2-3 trains a day out of there, even if it does work? And like I say, I don't understand why, if we're going to have this huge airport, years ago I used to fly. I used to fly out of Lansing. I've flown into Gary. I've flown into Meigs. And and this is before they developed those runways out there. I used to be able to take off and land twice on that runway before they even extended it. We've got, there's nothing O'Hare has over Gary as far as runway lengths and that kind of thing. There's no reason you can't even land the heavies there. But it's just so short-sighted when you look at what goes on around here.
It's a well-built airport. It has the facilities, but at the same time, getting an airline to actually locate at Gary is very difficult. And when they have located there, people in Northwest Indiana didn't support it. They had the old startup Pan Am Airlines out of there some years ago. It wasn't the original Pan Am, but it was a startup. And they flew to Florida, and I took it twice, and I wrote about it in the Times and said it was fantastic. What a great opportunity. And you know what? The second time I flew, there were like 8 people on the plane. That's why they pulled out, because they couldn't make any money. So, hey, a good point, though. Very good points. Thanks so much for calling.
Okay, Tom.
All right, it is 7:30 a.m. You're listening to WJOB 1230 a.m. 104.7 FM out of Hammond, Indiana. And this is the morning call with Tom Dabertin. We're going to be right back after these commercial announcements. We're going to take a quick break.